near the end of our long journey through the book of Acts. We're at Acts chapter 27. And our young people have joined us. Excited? Today, we're going to have some story time. Because actually, Acts 27 is read because it's written like a sea adventure story. Our young people, do you guys like story time? Yes, your parents still read books to you? It's going to be a story time today. You see, classical Greek literature, people who enjoy the classical Greek look at New Testament Greek down on their nose. Because they think this New Testament Greek, they call it Koine, simple Greek, is not really a literature. But then when they come to Luke, they say, actually the author of Luke, he's got style. And then when they come to chapter 27, this voyage of Paul from Jerusalem to Rome, and when we read it, you'll find out why. They're like, wow, this is a riveting story, nailed by the story. You wonder how they're going to survive all that storm as a wave picks up the boat and throws it down like it's a rag doll. Your stomach churns with it. It's a very well told story. So rather than ruining it by saying, here are the 3 moral lessons for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through most of it. And as I read most of it, I hope the most important thing you get is that, wow, Bible can be fun. I want to read it on my own. But secondly, as you read through this, you'll see God's power in the life of Paul and how to turn a sinking ship, this is the most amazing thing, into a church. You're going to see some amazing things like the prisoner and the prison guard becoming friends. But the most amazing thing is that in the belly of the ship, as it's sinking, there is the Lord's table. Worship happens. How does that happen? Aren't you interested? To the book we go. Acts chapter 27. From verse 1 to 3. So here's Paul. He's been languishing in prison for 2 years. He had a great big idea to go to Rome, but now it's finally happening. When the time came, we set sail for Italy. Paul and several other prisoners were placed in the custody of a Roman officer named Julius, a captain of the imperial regiment. Aristarchus, a Macedonian from Thessalonica, was also with us. We left on a ship whose home port was Adramyttium, on the northwest coast of the province of Asia. It was scheduled to make several stops at ports along the coast of the province. The next day when we docked at Sidon, Julius was very kind to Paul and let him go ashore to visit with friends so they could provide for his needs. When you join the imperial regiment, the elite of all Roman soldiers, like the Navy SEAL of the Roman Empire, you get trained really hard. And one of the most important training that you see is how to deal with prisoners. The last thing you want to do with a prisoner is to be friendly. You don't want to know his name. You definitely don't want to let your prisoner know your name. No, a prisoner must be a number. Because at all times, the prisoners outnumber the guards. And the only way you're going to control those prisoners is to number them. Put them into their places. Take away their face, their humanity, their personality. Reduce them into numbers. After all, they lost all right to their personhood when they committed that crime and they got caught. And so in all processes, all prisoners, they're stripped of their clothes. They express their personality, individuality. They're stripped but naked. They're washed down. They're put on gray tunic or any other of those black and white strips. And they are reduced to number 2, 4, 6, 0, 1. That's who you are. That's what should happen something strange is happening. We get to know the commanding officer, the captain. His name is Julius. That breaks all protocol. Befriending your prisoner, we get to know Julius. What happened that Luke and Paul get to know the name of the guard who's watching over them? Now, I don't think it happens right in the beginning here. Probably not. This is a narration, so Luke is kind of telling after how it happens. So in one sense, he gets insight into this, right? He gets a kind of foreshadowing. But at this point, I don't think Paul and Julius are buddy-buddy. I think it happens later down the road. Yes, here we see that actually Julius sees Paul, and that Paul is not like any other prisoner. So even from the very beginning, he begins to trust Paul. Paul is not as angry as all the other prisoners. All the other prisoners, you can see the anger. It's all in their body. It's in their veins popping out. It's in their eyes scrunched up. It's in the teeth grimacing. But Paul is not like that at all. All the prisoners are cursing, and Paul is just singing songs. All the prisoners are cursing God for their fate, and Paul, 3 days, morning, noon, and evening, is praying to God. So there's something different about this prisoner. And so his heart is already opening, but I don't think they're buddy-buddy at this time. And it might still be like, sometimes people with authority are merciful to show that who's in charge. I'm the one who's giving mercy to you. Don't you forget that. So, you can go and go meet with your friends and get all ready and get ready to sail. Yes, there's a bit of trust. This opens up. Not fully. And we'll see. Verse 4. Putting out to sea from there, we encounter strong headwinds, means wind directed against the ship, that made it difficult to keep the ship on course. So we sailed north of Cyprus, between the island and the mainland. Keeping to the open sea, we passed along the coast of Cilicia and Pamphylia, landing at Myra in the province of Lycia. They made it so far to Asia. There, the commanding officer found an Egyptian ship from Alexandria that was bound for Italy, and he put us on board. We had several days of slow sailing, and after great difficulty, we finally neared Cnidus. But the wind was against us, so we sailed across the Crete and along the sheltered coast of the island, past the Cape of Salmon. We struggled along the coast with great difficulty and finally arrived at Fair Havens near the town of Lycia. We had lost a lot of time. The weather was becoming dangerous for sea travel because it was so late in the fall. And Paul spoke to the ship's officer about it. Men, he said, I believe there's trouble ahead if we go on. Shipwreck, loss of cargo, and danger to our lives as well. But the officer in charge of the prisoners listened more to the ship's captain and the owner than to Paul. After all, Paul is just a prisoner. And since Fair Havens was an exposed board harbor, a poor place to spend the winter, most of the crew wanted to go on to Phoenix, farther up the coast of Crete, and spend the winter there. Phoenix was a good harbor, with only a southwest and northwest exposure. When a light wind began blowing from the south, the sailors thought they could make it. So they pulled up anchor and sailed close to the shore of Crete. Right from the beginning, we see that the sailing was not easy. Headwinds pushed against them as if God didn't want them to go. And I'm sure that's how many people interpret it. Maybe some of the pagans were saying, man, the sea god Poseidon is against us. Maybe he's still hungry. Maybe we have to feed him more meat. Or maybe some of the Jews were thinking of the story of Jonah. Is there someone here who's running away from the will of God? Is this why all the waves are pushing against us? Nothing is happening according to schedule. And so they come to a port and they begin to think about, what are we going to do? What should we do? It's getting late. late fall, winter comes, the Mediterranean Sea will get tumultuous. What should we do? And all the commanding officer and the sailors who are experts of the sea, who knows the sea like the back of their hands, are debating. And Paul sneaks his head in there. A prisoner says, hey, he gives unsolicited advice. I don't think we should go. What does Paul do? What does Paul know? I mean, he's never sailed on his own boat. It is true that he has experienced a lot of travels, and it seems like before this he had shipwreck. But does it make him an expert? Give unsolicited advice? It would be kind of like me saying, I got so much airline mileage that I go to the pilot and say, that I've got like 10,000 mileage, so I know what to do. So lift the plane up about 5,000 feet and you will reduce the turbulence. Oh no, don't take that advice. But here's Paul pushing his head in it, giving advice. So arrogant. Where does he get this? Of course, the commander dismisses. Paul, I'm beginning to trust you. I let you play with your friends, but now you go all arrogant on me and tell me what to do. Prisoner, 2:61. Yeah. And the sailors too. I mean, they're the experts. So in one sense, I feel like let's just do the very opposite. Don't you sometimes do that? When someone gives you advice, it might sound like wisdom. You'll do the very opposite to show that you're right, show that you're an expert. And it seems like that's what they do. We're not going to stay. We're going to go. They make their decision. And then, soft, gentle wind blows. And they look at Paul with a knowing smile. Listen to the expert. Be guided. Be guided. And so they go home with their schedule. And would you blame them? I mean, they're the experts. What does Paul know? He's, yes, gentler and kinder. He's not your regular prisoner, and he's all spiritual and all that. But what does Paul know about traveling? And so off they go. What happens? Acts 27, verse 14. But the weather changed. And the wind of typhoon strength called the northeaster burst across the island, blew us out to sea. The sailors could turn the ship into the wind, so they gave up and let it run before the gale. We sailed along the sheltered side of a small island named Halts, where with great difficulty we hoisted aboard the lifeboat being towed behind us. Then the sailors bound ropes around the hull of the ship to strengthen it. They didn't worry. The integrity of the boat is being threatened. They were afraid of being driven across the sandbars of Cyprus off the African coast. So they lowered the sea anchor to slow the ship and were driven before the wind. The next day, gale force winds continued to batter the ship. The crew began throwing the cargo overboard. The following day, David took some of the ship's gear and threw it overboard. A terrible storm raged for many days, blotting out the sun and the stars, until at last all hope was gone. I told you it's perilous. So they sail off using human wisdom. But what happens? They meet a typhoon. But they're like, it's okay. Storms happen. It will just last for a day. The day after, before they know it, they don't even know how many days has passed because all the stars and the sun has been blackened. It's dark. The water is throwing the ship up and down, and all the prisoners, maybe some of them all poor and only know land life, throwing it everywhere. And it's filthy. And it's and everybody is afraid. And the sailors, again, they faced a storm before, and they use their human knowledge and their expertise to deal with this. And they do everything. They bring in the lifeboat, you see that? They tie the boat, try to protect the integrity. And this storm is so huge, that it is throwing the boat from Europe all the way to North Africa, and they're afraid they must slam into North Africa. So they put the anchor down to keep from crashing in. They do everything they know how to do and what to do, but at the end, it leaves them all hopeless. You feel like that? You use all your knowledge you got from your elementary school, from your high school, your college, and it's not getting you anywhere. You go to Life Hacker and they give you all the tips on how to be a good spouse, how to be a good parent, how to be a good children. But no matter how much you have to fix that dynamic of the family, fix the dynamic of your company, it only makes it worse. The more you try to fix it, the more it breaks. It's kind of like you put that screw into the wood, one more time, it'll be perfect. Oh man, it's broken the whole frame. The more you try to fix it, the more it breaks. You ever feel like that? Hopeless. Because the truth is, these sailors in that small boat can't do anything about the typhoon. They can do little things on the boat, but they can't do anything about the typhoon. That's raging the whole Mediterranean Sea. The truth is, much of our life is out of our control. We like the illusion of control. That if we follow these 10 tips, everything's going to be perfect in my family and in my company. You can't fix it. You can fix your ties, but it's hard to fix your life. It's hard to fix our life. The storm that rages within us, the demons, it's hard to control. The storms that rage outside of us, whether it be sudden illness, sickness, cancer, loss of job, you can't control it. The sailors made a decision with the human wisdom, which is fine. Then they try to deal with it with human wisdom and come to a point where they realize they can't do anything. You feel like that? Maybe right now, did you come for this? Now what does Paul do? Let's see what Paul does. Where's Paul in all of this? About midnight, on the 14th night of something, on the 14 nights, up and down, as we were being driven across the Sea of Adria, the sailors sensed land was near. Oh, I'm sorry, you skipped. Sorry. We're in verse 21, I'm sorry. Verse 21. Verse 21. No one had eaten for a long time. Finally, Paul called the crew together and said, "Men, you should have listened to me in the first place and not left Crete. You would have avoided all this damage and loss. But take courage. None of you will lose your lives, even though the ship will go down. For last night an angel of God, to whom I belong and whom I serve, stood beside me, and he said, 'Don't be afraid, Paul, for you will surely stand trial before Caesar. What's more, God in his goodness has granted safety to everyone sailing with you. So take courage, for I believe God. It will be just as he said, but we will be shipwrecked around him.'" Don't you love what Paul does? He first comes, the first one he says is, "I told you so." Anyone know that type of person? Right? For young people, do your parents always say, "I told you so"? Can Ian, my son, go answer that? And young people, do you sometimes want to say to your parents, "I told you so," but if you say it, you know you gotta get a whooping. I told you so. There is a rough edge to Paul, for sure. He's a human being, and he moves on. And he encourages them. Don't worry. We made a mistake. There's going to be consequences. Yeah, we're going to get shipwrecked, but we're going to all survive. You're thinking, how does anyone survive? Maybe a couple of people will survive a shipwreck, but everyone? Yes, everyone. And we're going to crash upon them, but that's going to be all okay. Shred into bits, that's going to be okay. Everyone will survive. He gives them encouragement because he has courage. And where does his courage come from? Because of his call. He knows God is calling him to go alone. Because it's God's call, God is going to make it happen. And everybody around him is going to benefit from that. He's got courage. I don't know, maybe for these few nights as the storm is raging, maybe Paul didn't say anything. He's like, it never was me. But now, when they're hopeless, they're like, now there was to me. I told you so, but we're going to survive because God is with me. So because of me, God is going to save every one of you. Courage comes from Paul's understanding of this calling. And you know what? Sometimes we Christians need to be courageous. Every one of you baptized means you also have a calling. It doesn't mean just the person who can ordain as a pastor. Every one of you, even you young people, you all have a calling. Now you have to be courageous, know that calling, pursue it, and be bold about it. Even declare it to these people. Think about it. Like all the people are dying, and Paul says, I have to go to Rome, so you got to be saved. What does that have to do with us? I'm going to be bold. I'm going to tell you, because God, my God, who creates all these things, gave me a calling. I'm pursuing it, and when I'm pursuing it, God's going to protect me. Hey, and you guys are on this boat. You're lucky. You'll be saved. You and I sometimes need to be brave and speak out. Be bold. You have a calling. Stop looking for it, waiting for it. You have a calling. Declare it. Say, you know, your company will be saved because of you. Your family will be saved because of you. Even your school, elementary, middle school, will be renewed because of you, because you are there. You have a calling in that school, in that company. You need to claim that. Haley was 5 years old when she saw a homeless person, and her heart was broken. She said to Mom, I want to do something like that. I want to build him a home. And you know what? That's what she's been doing. Now she's 9 years old. She's been building small homes. Little homes, not full homes, right? With a patio, but $300. That's all it takes. She gets a lot of donations. And those little homes for this woman goes so they can at least have shelter from the rain. And now, 9 years old, this was a news article shared by one of our members. She says, this year, I'm going to make 5 more homes for homeless. Bold and courageous. I see something, I sense a calling. It's not, it doesn't have to be a heavenly voice, but there's a need, and you just go ahead and do it. Arthur Capps was a professor in Berkeley, an atheist professor who made fun of the Christian faith, an old dead faith, and people who need that continue to believe in that. And one of the female students spoke up and said, no, my faith is alive. She spoke up bold. When he was off for summer break, she gave him, Arthur, a book, the Bible. Have you ever read this Bible? No. You should read it. That's me after. Took that book, traveled around, and it was in a boat towards Greek island. He read the book of John, read the story about all the Pharisees who bring the woman caught in adultery, and they trapped him. Jesus, perfect trap. She's been caught in adultery. Our book says we must stone her. So if they stone her, and Jesus says yes, then he goes against the Roman law. If he says no, then he goes against the Jewish law. Jesus scribbles. What's the answer? He who is without sin for the first stone. The stone is dropped. The old man is when Arthur read that, this wisdom is beyond any human wisdom. He gave his life to Jesus. I know that story because I met him in one pastor formation in a sauna. He was not naked, but he told me the story. Be bold. You might not know everything. This student could not argue with all the well-versed philosophical arguments that this professor knew, but she spoke about what she did know about the living faith given by him. Be bold, be courageous. You have a call. Declare. Continuing on. By midnight on the 14th night of the storm, long, as we were being driven across the Sea of Adria, sailors sensed land was near. They dropped the weighted line and found that the water was 120 feet deep. But a little later they measured again and found it was only 90 feet. Getting closer. At this rate, they were afraid they would soon be driven against the rocks along the shore. So they threw out 4 anchors in the back of the ship and prayed for the Lord. And the sailors tried to abandon the ship. They lowered the light as though they were going to put up anchors in the front of the ship. But Paul said to the commanding officer, and I don't know how Paul sees that. You will die unless the sailors stay aboard. So the soldiers cut the ropes to the life and let it drift away. No one can see it. Just as day was dawning, Paul urged everyone to eat. We have been so worried that he hadn't touched food for 2 weeks since then. Please eat something now for your own good. But not a hair of your head will perish. And he took some bread, gave thanks to God for them all, and broke off a piece to eat. And everyone was encouraged and began to eat. All 276 of us who were alive. After eating, the crew lightened the ship further, throwing a cargo of wheat overboard. You see leadership shifting, right? In the ship, officers, the commanders, to Paul. Because of Paul's bravery and courage, which stems from the sense of calling. And Paul, so worried about them worrying, gathers them and says, stop worrying. What we got to do now is eat. Is that good advice? Do you like it when you're depressed? Oh, come on, let's go out and eat. Food tastes like sand. Is that good advice? Would you understand what I'm going through? And all you can think about is food? Actually, maybe it might be the best advice. Maybe when words can really alleviate the pain and depression, the best thing we can do is go and take our friends out and just eat. And if the food is all bland, throw some jalapeno in there. Eating. When Elijah was all depressed and was suicidal, God first sends ravens and says, eat, eat. Maybe that's what we need. When we cannot comfort with our words, just to sit and eat. Because there's something about the power of food giving physical strength, but also eating together that gives us spiritual strength, isn't there? Even this last Sunday, after the service was over, one family from our church said, let's go and eat. And we went, and we ate a lot. 2 bowls of sushi, man, it was good. It gave me so much confidence, way beyond the physical energy that those sushis give. Paul, out of his bosses, come and eat. And when they do come and eat, he doesn't just say, okay, you know, there's some non-Christians here, so I'm going to be respectful, so I'll say a quick prayer, you know, the Indian prayer. All right, I see. He breaks the bread, does the word that Jesus Christ has taught him. This is my body broken for you. Not everyone has there been baptized. Not everyone there has understands what he's saying. Not everyone has heard the gospel. But this is the body of Christ. This is the blood of Christ. And right there, a church is birthed. belly of a ship that is sinking, a church is birthed. Everyone over there is gathered, and there's a sailor who tried to abandon ship. Some people are probably saying, we should kill these guys. And there's the soldiers and the guards, and there are the prisoners. And all of them at that evening in that worship is all one family. They pass the bread down, and I imagine a Roman soldier turns, gives the bread to a prisoner, and sees that face, really that face for the first time. And when he sees that face, the old worn face, sun-burned face, he remembers his father. Worked so hard so he could have a chance. So no prisoner is no longer just a number, it's a person. And when that older prisoner receives that and looks at that face, and it's a young face, it reminds him of the son that he lost. And now the Roman God is not just evil incarnate, but a young person just trying to do what is right. There's this communion that happens, recognizing that beyond the Roman helmet and panoply, suit, and the prisoner guard, they are all the same before the communion. Sinners, broken, afraid to die, in need of someone to hold on to. I would love to be part of the communion. Maybe this is that table. I know we all come on Sunday with smiles. That's good to encourage. I know, because I know myself. That's not what it is. I'm good. That is why it's you. Everyone else. Invite. Continuing on in our story. But morning dawned, they didn't recognize the coastline, but they saw a bay at the beach and wondered if they could get to shore by running the ship around. So they cut off the anchors and left them in the sea. Now the ship is like no anchors, no food, nothing. Now they got just trust to drift the sea. And they lowered the waters, raised the coastline, and headed towards shore. But they hit a shoal and ran the ship around too soon. Though the ship stuck fast, while the stern was repeatedly smashed by the force of the waves and began to break apart. The soldiers wanted to kill the prisoners to make sure they would swim ashore and escape. The commanding officer wanted to spare Paul, so he didn't let them carry the command. Then he ordered all who swam to jump overboard first. And made for land. The others held on to planks and reeds from the broken ship. So everyone, 26 of them, escaped safely to shore. So they had this amazing communion where they see each other as brother and brother. Next morning, with the threat of that storm, the glory of the worship is forgotten. And the soldiers, facing the possibility that they could lose a prisoner, that they will lose their life, revert to their training and put their hand on the hilt of the sword. It's like that with us too. We get a powerful worship experience, but then it is all gone. Like as soon as we return home and the same word is spoken, and in the same response, anger, or same response of absence. Monday morning comes, it's the same boss chewing you out. And everything that we have been blessed on Sunday is forgotten. We, human beings, emotionally, we go up and down like the seas. But this is a beautiful thing that we see in this holy commandment. There's one thing, in one sense, that anchors his heart. doesn't know what's going to happen. Shipwreck, where all these people will run away to, whether we'll be losing any of them, whether any of them will escape. If they escape, if they all come back. But there's one anchor for him is this. He's gotten to know Paul. Paul is his friend, and he will spare his life. He will do anything to save him. And so for that one friend's life, he commands everyone under him to put away in the sword and let them swim ashore. Powerful stuff. You know, this is really why the sea adventure is told by Luke. Think about it. Luke usually tells about Paul's story. I mean, for those who have not joined us reading the book of Acts, it's really quick and tells about what Paul does in the cities. But Paul tells us this specific travel. Because from the beginning to the end, something happens. And at the end, the commander of 24601 becomes a friend of Paul. And for the sake of Paul, spares everybody. Powerful friendship. And then we come back then to what we're trying to do as a new life. We believe that the kingdom of God can be more fully expanded by friendship. It's not about simply religious experiences. It's not about having the right doctrines. It is about, in the communion, everyone's invited. And the people that we meet, that we keep our promise to them. You are my brother, you are my sister. No matter what happens, no matter how we disagree, what conflict we face, no matter what life issues we face, we are brother and sister because of Christ's body and blood. And you know what? I'm going to keep that. I'm committed to that, even at the cost of my own life. And that's what you see here. Friendship. It brings salvation to you. John Vanier won the 2015 Templeton Prize just this month. And that prize goes to leaders who teach the world about human spirituality. Mother Teresa was one of the recipients. And John Vanier received this, and it's because he's the founder of the large community, which is basically normal people living together with intellectually disabled people. Not in any hierarchy, but as a community. Now there are 147 communities, 35 countries all around. But it all started when in 1969, as a young priest, he was invited to a mental institute. And he went there, and his heart broke because of how the disabled people were being treated. Not as human beings, but as numbers. People who need to be kept in control for the safety of the society. And his heart broke. And he says that one of the persons just simply came to him and said, "Can you be my friend?" And that lingered in his heart. The next year he came, and they were singing and suas. And he said, "You too, come with me and live with me in my home." He couldn't say everyone at the same time, but those two people, "You're my friend, live with me at home." And that became the large community. And if you go to the website, co-founder of the large community, John Vanier, singing and suas. It wasn't a pity thing. It was a friendship that also purified soul. So I imagine them finally reaching Rome. Now the commander is handing Paul over to the guard who watch over him in the prison of Rome. And the commander takes off his helmet, shakes the hand of Paul. This is my name.